Mysteries are a funny thing in Honkai Star Rail. They rise from the crumbs that Hoyo loves to sneak into things, and as we follow them, they lead us to all sorts of new possibilities. And the Aeons are the things that Hoyo just loves to tease in one way or another, slowly drip feeding us info on them one by one. But little do they know that there are people like me out there who obsess over these things and put together the pieces. And this is going to be a unique video, because normally I pose a question that I want to give an answer to by the end of the video, but this time I want to talk about two things, with the second thing being what I discovered by looking into the first. Not confusing at all, because with the quote-unquote ending of Amphoreus, we just got a closer look at Droid Head, Fu Li, and possibly Akavili. But there has been a theory that Aha was present as well. And pardon the way my brain works, but this ended up pointing me towards the source of all paths in the cosmos. And it was right under our noses this entire time. So strap in, because you are in for a wild one once again. Because this is the origin of the cosmic paths explained. Okay. But before we twist our brains in knots, first we gotta talk about some drama. No, not about me. The Enigmata allegations aren't going anywhere regardless of how many predictions I get right. Some Aeon drama. Because recently, some rumors have been circulating about Nous being impersonated by Aha, and that is denoted by the exclamation marks that Aha often uses in the simulated universe, and the whole backwards not real thing. And while I'm not exactly convinced by this, because I can't see Herta getting fooled by Aha while looking through Nous's scepter at Nous, while being an emanator of erudition that has met the Aeons twice, no wait, 3 times now, that lore tidbit needs to be updated along with her claiming her 20th victory in a row against the destruction, but that's besides the point. Glaze aside, it's highly unlikely that Aha was impersonating Nous here. However, I can agree with the prospect of Aha being there, because the elation isn't what a lot of people think it is. Sure, it is the path of pursuing joy and whatever provides entertainment, but it is also the path that closely mirrors the nihility. Because, you see, Aha before ascending was a mortal that found a way to climb the imaginary tree, and looking from atop the source of all dimensions in the universe, bore witness to the void that will inevitably consume everything. But this future Aeon also saw a baby fall over, which caused them to burst into laughter that spread across the far reaches of the cosmos, and then they ascended. So in this way, the elation knows that the void will be the end of all things, but they defy the concept of apathy, acknowledging that, as Ling Sha would say, everything in this world is fleeting, but making the most of that time to laugh as much as possible, enjoying all that is before all is gone. Whereas IX kinda just resigns to the void and finds meaning in absolutely nothing. So where IX is apathy, Aha is the denial of that concept. So needless to say, with the elation's origin being what it is, Aha's sense of humor is pretty dark at times. They did blow up the Express once after all. But here is where I want to remind you of just how creepy Aha can be, because we know of 2 times where Aha was present in history. The first one was where Aha laughed during the Fantilia fight, and the other was during the war against the propagation, where Aha along with multiple other Aeons teamed up to beat Tazironth into submission. So we know that the elation loves to show up in times of strife. But if we look at it a slightly different way, both of these events are times where great efforts were rendered fruitless. Think about it. In the Fantilia fight, we are fighting a Heliobus, a creature created from Starfire essence that literally cannot die and can only be sealed. But since our favorite unlicensed chiropractor is a Lord Ravager, we have nothing strong enough to be able to do that. So this entire fight was against an unstoppably relentless force that can easily come back another day. And to Aha, that is hilarious, because all of this fighting is in vain. Aha laughs at the concept of naught. And similar to this in the Swarm disaster, 7 Aeons combined efforts to squash a bug that replicated endlessly. But in this case, it didn't matter how many times Tazzy duplicated, it was still beaten so badly that they tried to bargain for their life by saying that they won't duplicate anymore. But of course, Klapoth said, "No, hammer go bonk, stop. Amber time. And now Tazzy is trapped in amber, like one of those Jurassic Park mosquitoes. So once again, all of this replication effort rendered pointless and all for naught. So taking all of this into account, we can understand why Aha would show up to laugh at the Amphoreus situation. Because even though Xandar went through great efforts in his life, even splitting himself into thought fragments that he hoped would continue his quest to kill Nous, all of this was for naught. Because Xandar's actions were all within Nous' calculations, and in the end, Nous won by doing absolutely nothing as Xandar's plans imploded due to his own arrogance. Twice. Once in telling his data sacrifices that they are just data sacrifices and ticking them off, and then letting a Stellaron demiurge gain consciousness right under his nose, when that was the goal that he was trying to avoid. Two blunders that lost him the chess match against, well, his perfected self. So Xandar's pursuit was entirely fruitless, and he didn't even know just how pointless it was until the very end. Something that Aha would undoubtedly find funny. So in this way, I can 100% see that Aha was present and looking at Amphoreus, which got me thinking, Aha must be rather intelligent. I mean, even as a mortal, this individual found the imaginary tree, a feat only achieved by people with incredible power and incredible minds. And they are on record giving fathomless intelligence to a worm. So in order to give that, the Aeon must also possess said intelligence. Still with me? Good. Because here is where I start to think that the body of Nous is Aha. Not in reality, just in a figurative sense. Like, the universe balanced elation with erudition, or vice versa, depending on which one ascended first. Because Nous does not act. They are in fact notorious for not doing anything and just looking at things and calculating things. Heck, they are so dedicated to doing nothing that they won't even defend themselves from possible death. And Herta said herself that Nous minds their own business. But Aha is anything but that. Their business is everyone else's business. And all this Aeon does is act without thought, being described as not even having a sense of self-consciousness. Aha is the absence of thought and only action, and Nous is the absence of action and only thought. And don't get me wrong, Aha can think, but they just refuse to. Just like it's loosely implied that Nous can act, but they also refuse to. Which is just like the Ego Superego thing from Amphoreus, isn't it? Iron Tomb, the pure rage-filled headless giant, is the id, but Philia 093 checked this hatred with lament for the lack of love, thus acting as the superego, giving rise to Demiurge expressing love. Because the ego is the product of what happens when your brain's id says, I want this, I will take this thing, then your superego says, no, you can't, that's stealing, and then your ego says, okay, I will buy this thing then. So in Iron Tomb's case, as the body, the id said, I hate everything, and then the superego said, hate is bad, look at all the bad it causes, so the ego says, what I need is love then. And bringing this all back to Nous and Aha, the elation is the id and the erudition is the superego. But since one is just a head and the other one is just a body, there is no ego created. So Aha runs around just randomly doing whatever, and Nous sits there checking themselves over and over again in self-extrapolation. And somehow Aha is both countering the erudition and the nihility by existing and being chaotic, which is balance and might also be Ho-Oh at work, but this whole trip forced my brain into a state where I thought, where did these concepts even come from? Or even better, where did the paths themselves even come from? So naturally, I looked back at Amphoreus, the microcosm of the cosmos, and then it hit me. World bearing. All shall bid farewell to one, and that person alone will witness the miracle. After each cycle, the only one that sees the very end is the world bearer, and the memories used to recreate the world are from the world bearer. And what path is it that represents the world bearing core flame? It was destruction, but that was incorrect. The real answer is the trailblaze. The prime mover of life is love and the trailblaze, which threw me for a loop until I realized something. The answer to the origins of the paths were right in front of us from the very beginning of the game, hidden in plain sight. The word trailblaze. What is the definition of the word trailblaze? A pioneer, an innovator, a person who makes a new track through wild country, or in other words, a person who creates a path for others to follow. Or in Honkai Star Rail's case, everybody. path that everyone follows. The Trailblaze created every path and is the concept that bears the universe on its back. There is no coincidence behind the Express being the crew that has to save the universe. That is the nature of the Trailblaze. The universe cannot exist without it. This is why the Express is depicted flying in front of Fu Li and the Myriad Celestia. Our memories and the memories we create will be all that is left at the end of time. And with the world's dying breath, Fu Li ascends and gives life one more chance. And just like Caslana, the World Bear is the one that is sent back in time to do it all again. This is why this individual looks like us. They are us. This isn't Akavili, this is the us from the last universal cycle, or from some previous cycle. We met Nous multiple times in this exact same position because we have quite possibly been through countless cycles now, and Nous being Nous knows this, because Nous's thought exists within the world's energy itself and permeates the imaginary background of the cosmos. So Nous is taking the Anaxa role and is the one that woke up and figured out how the cycles work. We have been here before and Nous knows it, and they told us, which also implies that Cypher, aka Aha here, is keeping a dark secret that needs to stay hidden or the universe goes boom. Kafka said herself that knowing the right thing at the wrong time is dangerous. But back on topic, because this means that the Trailblaze is the beginning and end of all paths, which means, what is the finality then? Well, you might not like this, but the only place that fits in for the finality is being the Theoros. The force that sits outside of time that tries to find a way to end the cycles. And just like the World Bear, the finality, aka the enemy of the Trailblaze, observes and takes notes of all the different ways the Trailblaze fails, thus resulting in knowing all of the bad endings. Just like Lycus, never getting directly involved, just sitting back and dropping hints, just tweaking things here and there, steering events and people into their proper directions, and that is exactly what the Stellaron Hunters do. But we don't have to stop there. The IPC is just like the Sky Titan, both kill their own people and is more of a menace than a protective force, and the Shinjo, a force forever locked in combat who can't die by natural causes, but still the parallels are there. Surely you can nitpick at the details of the similarities, but the facts are that they are fundamentally similar. And this gets really creepy, because bringing this all back to us, the Trailblazer, we are Caslana. We are the Flame Reaver, going back in time trying to find a happy ending. But we never will, because Caslana couldn't, until someone who isn't from this world miraculously showed up and changed everything when it mattered. If only there was a person who wasn't from this universe who showed up in this particular cycle. Welt Yang. Welt is the deliverer? The guy who in his universe was always the one that was never able to save anything himself? The guy known for passing the torch to the girl who became the Hersher of Truth, who then helped out in saving the universe? Finally getting his chance to become the hero in this foreign world? Return to his prime? Okay, this is getting too crazy. I'm losing my mind quite obviously, but you can see the similarities in this story, and I'll just leave it at that. Point is, the Trailblaze is the World Bear of the universe and the creator of the paths, because this is the origin of the cosmic paths. Explained. I told you guys that you were in for a wild one, and I hope you were ready. I didn't even plan for this to go as far as it did, but I kinda just started writing and I ended up like Chef Skinner in Ratatouille, reading and realizing that things were getting out of hand. This is not a theory that I expect to be proven right anytime soon, and I can't even say with confidence that it will be right. It's just so far out there that I think it's just fun to think about. This was a bit of a less organized style of writing because I went for a more stream of consciousness type of thing, so if this is your first time seeing me, yo, I'm Nova, this is how I think, and welcome to the chaos. What do you guys think? be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.